So something weird is going on in Florida, and I'm guessing that it's going to be popping up in other states all around the nation quickly. The Florida Department of Education came up with a program where they offered a $700 stipend to Florida teachers for showing up to a 3-day training seminar. It's happening all across the state. This was in 2022, 2 years ago. And there would be a $3,000 bonus if they showed up and then completed some additional tasks, which had to do with basically teaching the material that they were learning in their classrooms. Turns out that what those programs were, and then they repeated it again last year in 2023 and upped the ante. They put more money into it, and I'll get to what they're doing this year. This was a program, a multi-million-dollar program that Governor Ron DeSantis put into place called Civics Literacy Excellence Initiative. And it includes things like, for example, conditions for independence, misperception. The founders desired strict separation of church and state, and the founders only wanted to protect freedom of worship. They're calling this a misperception. And then they say self-government requires people committed to civic and moral virtue. Religion is the inculcator for virtue. Christian principles of covenant with God are reflected in John Locke's social compact theory. And, it goes on from there. Basically what it is indoctrination and Christian nationalism, and the idea that this country was founded by Christians for Christians, and it's all based on Christianity. That it's the bedrock of our country, which is a myth. It's not true. Thomas Jefferson wasn't a Christian. Ben Franklin wasn't a Christian. Thomas Paine wasn't a Christian. George Washington wasn't a Christian. Anyhow, they also downplay slavery. They overhype the whole, Christian thing, and they promote the originalism and textualism, the idea that, everything that the Supreme Court does should be based on what they think the founders would have done and how life was lived back in the 1700s. Here's another one. This is another one of the slides from this indoctrination that these teachers are being paid to show up for. To be free, you need a republic. To have the republic, you need a constitution. To have a constitution, you need morality. To have morality, you need religion. And then they claim that this is from George Washington, and it's not. So that was, 2023, the state awarded 11,000 teachers more than $33 million for completing these training sessions. And 24 for this year, they are spending $45 million to continue this indoctrination program of teachers in Florida. This is evil stuff. This is religious freaks, religious fanatics, trying to indoctrinate our children in their particular religion. And I guarantee you, these people, if you said, oh, well, yeah, let's teach religion in the schools. Let's talk about Thor and Loki, the Norwegian gods. Or, let's talk about Hinduism. Who is better, Krishna or Rama? Or let's teach the basis of Judaism. Anything other than Christianity, they would be freaking out. And the state of Florida is using state taxpayer money, taxes paid by atheists, by Jews, by Hindus, by Muslims, to promote Christianity in the public schools in Florida. This is absolutely what the founders were opposed to. Probably the most Christian among the founders, the most outspoken Christian among the founders, and the one that, gets often quoted as Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry was really not among the founders. He showed up for the constitutional ratifying convention for Virginia, but that was it. But Patrick Henry, had all these wonderful sayings about what a great Christian he was and how important Christianity was. He was a Christian. He wanted Christian nationalism. He was also the largest slave owner in the state of Virginia. He was the guy who wanted the Second Amendment passed so that they could have so that the slave patrols could remain armed separate from any interference by the federal government. But if you look at James Madison, the father of the Constitution, the guy who essentially helped write the Constitution, the guy who kept the notes on the thing and ran the meeting for that whole summer and fall in 1787 in Philadelphia, James Madison became president in 1809. And the first thing, his first veto, arguably his first official act of office, was to veto a piece of legislation that Congress passed to give money to a church in Washington, D.C. to run a poorhouse. And he said the government should never give money to churches. That kind of subsidy, this establishes a precedent which is wrong. It was in correspondence between Madison and Jefferson that the phrase, wall of separation between church and state came up. And they were both in favor of it. But here we have down in Florida, I should probably write about this too. In addition to the Trump cult versus a Trump movement, this whole thing that, the founders did not want this. This is completely ahistoric. Outside of Patrick Henry, who wasn't one of the founders. He was just a big mouth back in the day. So anyway, and Florida also, they just published their new guidelines for teaching civics. They are staying with their commitment to slaves develop skills which could be applied to their personal benefit. Yes, slavery was a good thing, don't you know? It's now officially part of the curriculum in Florida. And even after all the blowback last year, they said this year, yeah, we're going to continue doing it. Oh, and the Tulsa Race Massacre, that was violence by African Americans, according to the state of Florida.